Hi, I'm Scott McLean from transmusicmastery.com. In this video I will show you how Adam Sabo created a lead sound like the one heard in Elements of Life original mix by Tiesto. And the sound that Adam created sounds like this. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the MIDI clip. So this is an 8-bar pattern dealing with D sharp, F sharp, and F sharp, and then that repeats. Then we've got F, G sharp, F sharp, separated by octaves. So really what's happening is we've got the lower section here, and then it's spanning an octave up here. It just follows the sequence here, F down to C, F, G, A, B, A, G, and F. In fact, these are, just in case you're not aware of this, anytime you see the gray lines here, that indicates it's a sharp. So in this case, it's A sharp. This would be A sharp, G sharp, F sharp. So let me go ahead and play the sequence, and you can see the MIDI clip play. Alright, let's take a look at the sound map. And Adam Sabo says, the distortion gives the tone of the sound, but to get the underlying character of that tone, we need to use lots of detuned square waveforms to achieve this sound. So this patch is using 4 oscillators. Oscillator 1, 2, and 3 are all quad square waves. Oscillator 4 is a single square. And then also pay attention to the tuning of these oscillators. Oscillator 2 is +1 octave from that of oscillator 1. Oscillator 3 is -1 octave from that of oscillator 1. And oscillator 4 is +2 octaves from oscillator 1. And then the output of those is mixed and flows into a filter. This is a low-pass vintage filter. And then it flows into the amplifier with the volume being modulated by envelope 1 with 0 attack, medium decay, sustain at 11%, and a fast release. And then that flows into the effects and then to the main output. And then for the effects we have a delay. This is a stereo delay with the left channel at 1/4 and the right at 1/8. And then that's mixed at 15.5%. And then that flows into a reverb with approximately a 3-second reverb tail, low dampening for a bright reverb, and that's mixed at 13% wet. And then that flows into a filter, a low-pass vintage filter with resonance at 19 and drive at 100, which adds the distortion. And then that flows into an EQ with a bandpass filter at +7 dB boost near 2.5 kHz and a high shelf +4 dB boost near 4 kHz. And then that flows into the main output. Okay, let's build this patch. Okay, so we're going to start with the initialized patch, and let me play this part of the sequence with this patch. Okay, so what we want to do is set oscillator 1 with quad, set the voices to quad, set the detune amount to 5, and set the mixer volume to 70. And for this we want to have the waveform be a square wave, so I'm going to just draw that in. And set it to crisp. Okay, so next we want to add oscillator 2. Okay, the first thing that I want to do with oscillator 2 is change its waveform shape to a square wave. Set the voices to quad and detune those voices by an amount of 5. And for oscillator 2, we want that to have a higher octave, so we're going to go up 1 octave, setting tune to 12. And then finally bring the volume up just a bit, setting it to 108. Okay, next we're going to add oscillator 3. And for oscillator 3, we want to set its waveform to a square wave also. So I'm going to actually copy the wave from oscillator 2. So we can right click and say copy wave set. Go to oscillator 3, right click and say paste wave set. And so now I have a square wave here for oscillator 3. And I want to set the voices to quad. Set the tune to -12, so this will be down 1 octave. Detune by 5. And bring the volume down all the way to 0, and then I'm going to gradually bring it up to 16. So again, just a hint of some low end to this patch. And we do want to set oscillator 3 to crisp. Okay, so next add oscillator 4. And oscillator 4, we're going to set that to a square wave as well. So let me copy this wave set and paste it into oscillator 4. And oscillator 4, we want to set that up 2 octaves. So tune, I'm going to set that to 24. And then set the mixer volume to 70. And set the oscillator waveform to crisp. Alright, next let's set up the envelope. We're going to leave the attack at 0. Decay, we'll set that to 25. Sustain, 11. Release, 5.5. And velocity to 0. So by bringing the sustain down, this is going to have sort of a plucky type feel to it. So that'll be the first thing that I do. I'm going to set that to 11. And then bring decay down to 25. Shorten the release, setting it to 5.5. And then bring velocity scaling down to 0. Okay, next we're going to add a filter. Set the filter type to LP Vintage. Bring the resonance up to 26.5. And do you hear how bringing that resonance up, because the cutoff frequency is at 150, which is the maximum value, bringing the resonance up is actually adding a very high-end harmonics. Let's see if we can see it on the spectrum analyzer. Let me move this out of the way. So what I'll do is I'll repeat that move. I can hear it, and let's go ahead and disable the filter. I don't really see it in the spectrum analyzer. Maybe if we zoomed in, we might catch it over here. Let's see. Yeah, it's right here. There's a little bit of a roll-off here in the 18, 20 kilohertz range. So from pretty much 16 on up, there's a slight roll-off. So that's interesting. So whenever you're looking for a little bit of brightness, a little hint of that very high-end noise type sound, this is one technique you can use, is just boost the resonance with the filter cutoff at its maximum value and see if that gives you what you're looking for. Alright, let me unfreeze this and we'll continue on. Okay, next we're going to add a delay. And we want to set the delay time. We're going to actually leave the sync times alone, leave those at 1/4. I'm going to bring the feedback all the way down to 0, crossback all the way down to 0. The first thing I'll do is set mix to 15.5. And then set the feedback to 32. Okay, next add reverb. And for this we're going to set dry to 100. Wet, it's going to be very slight reverb amount, so let me go ahead and bring that down to 0. We're actually going to set it to 13. And you just hear that very subtle hint of reverb filling in the gaps between the notes. Range, I'm going to increase that to 63, or actually decrease that to 63, and feedback, increase that to 63.5. And then all the other settings are going to remain at their default values. Okay, next we're going to add a filter. Here we want to set the filter type to LP vintage, and we're going to do the same thing, leave the cutoff at its maximum value and increase the resonance to 19. And then bring drive all the way up to 100. And as I do that, I'll be modifying the output levels here. Let me make another adjustment to the output levels. We're going to set output to 112.37 and the master to 4.5. Okay, and the last thing to add is EQ. So here I'm going to apply a 7 dB boost with filter 3, right around 2.8 kilohertz. And want to lower the resonance on this to widen the bandwidth, setting it to 14. And for filter 4, we're going to apply a 4 dB boost right around 4 kilohertz. Trying to accentuate this region of the frequency spectrum to help give it more presence. And then also with the resonance, we're going to widen the bandwidth on filter 4, setting it to 40. Let me demonstrate with and without EQ. So this is with EQ. So that EQ is also lifting the highs and the reverb as well, giving both the main lead sound and the reverb around it much more presence, making it more prominent. Alright, that's the patch, and I guess I'll go ahead and play through one time the whole sequence just to conclude the video. I will see you in the next video.